listener production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, the new research that shows a link between vitamin D deficiency and a range of mental health disorders, including autism, ADHD and schizophrenia. We chat with the Australian scientist involved in this groundbreaking study. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Friday, the 16th of May. Ben Roberts-Smith has vowed to continue his legal fight against 9 newspapers despite losing a federal court case today. The Victoria Cross recipient lost his appeal to overturn the finding in his defamation trial against the media giant that he committed war crimes in Afghanistan. Roberts-Smith released a statement after the loss saying he will immediately challenge the judgment in the High Court of Australia. Pop star Justin Bieber has broken his silence over Sean Diddy Combs. The 31-year-old's team has released a statement claiming he is not among Sean Combs' alleged victims, but claims there are individuals who were allegedly genuinely harmed by him. It comes as the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs continues, with his heavily pregnant ex-girlfriend again taking the stand. And Australia's lowest paid workers could be in for a wage increase. The newly elected federal government is pushing the Fair Work Commission to give around 3 million workers, including early childhood educators and retail employees, the boost, but did not detail by exactly how much. Treasurer Jim Chalmers says it's important that the increase is higher than the rate of inflation.
So Australians can earn more to provide for their loved ones when they work hard and get ahead.
Now it's time to get into our deep dive with Professor John McGrath, who was behind the groundbreaking research about how vitamin D deficiency can increase our risk of developing a range of mental health disorders. John, thanks so much for joining us. Firstly, congratulations on this extraordinary work. Tell us about what you've found, the link with vitamin D and mental health disorders.
It's a great pleasure to share with you these new results. They're based on many decades of hard work. And we had clues from various epidemiology studies and animal studies that low D was linked to schizophrenia. But in this new study published yesterday, we looked at several types of mental disorders and we looked at several ways to measure it. But the punchline is that we found several types of clues that low D was linked to an increased risk of not only schizophrenia, but also ADHD and autism. That was surprising.
How much of an exciting breakthrough is this? Because whatever we can do to reduce one's risks of mental health disorders, especially if your research was looking specifically on vitamin D deficiency in pregnant women, how exciting is this to know that you have another important piece in the puzzle to helping people with mental health?
It's not definitive proof. In an ideal world, we do a big randomized controlled trial where we randomize tens of thousands of pregnant Danish women to placebo and tens of thousands of pregnant Danish women to normal vitamin D, and then we check them up for 20 years. Now, that's not feasible and it's not ethical. You're not allowed to leave women who are pregnant on no vitamin D. So we rely on these biobanks, and my Danish colleagues have kept all the neonatal blood spots. So many of your listeners will know that when a new baby's born, they get a little prick of blood on their heel, and that is put on a filter paper. Now, my colleagues in Denmark have kept that. And in fact, in the whole kingdom of Denmark, they've kept everyone's neonatal blood spot for many years, for everyone from prince to pauper. And with due ethical permission, we get anonymized data and they let the research community access that. So the key message for your listeners is that vitamin D is safe and cheap. It's going to be good for your bones. It's going to be good for the baby's bones. And what we're saying is that not only is vitamin D good for the bones, we think it's probably good for the healthy brain as well.
So in regards to an increased risk, what has your research found? So if you have vitamin D deficiency, whether that is as a pregnant mother that your unborn baby could have a greater risk of mental health issues, or as an adult, if you've got vitamin D deficiency, that you have an increased risk of suffering these mental health disorders. What's the percentage increase? What's the greater risk?
What we do is we do thought experiments. Based on the Danish data, which is population-based, we say, what if we moved everyone up above, say, 21 nanomoles per litre, so there's no one with low vitamin D in Denmark, what percent of schizophrenia could we prevent? ADHD and autism. And in fact, for schizophrenia, we could prevent 19%, about 1 in 5. And for ADHD, it's about 9%. And for autism, it's about 5%. Now, they might seem small, but actually for me, I'm a psychiatrist. I've been treating people with schizophrenia. And if you can prevent like 1% of people getting schizophrenia, to me, that is cause for celebration. But the Danish data suggests that it could be 1 in 5. That's not nearly 20%. So to me, that's a substantial proportion. In Australia, low vitamin D is not that common. I can't tell you what proportion of cases of these disorders we could prevent in Australia. I don't have that data.
So in regards to, I guess, vitamin D, we now know there's a pretty clear link to an increased risk of mental health issues or disorders. What's it linked to other illnesses? Like there's quite substantial research about its link also to MS.
Yes. So we're looking at prenatal vitamin D. There is evidence to suggest that early life vitamin D could also link to MS. And there are very interesting studies on this, Natarsha. So if you look at the rates of MS across the country, multiple sclerosis, it's much higher in Hobart than it is in Cairns. And that's a latitude gradient. This is a telltale sign. This is what epidemiologists like me, this is the grist for our mill, because we're saying, oh, this looks like it's something that varies with latitude. Well, that could be vitamin D. Now, that's prenatal exposure. Now we go to vitamin D through the rest of your life. So we don't think that exposure to low vitamin D or vitamin D deficiency as an adult has anything to do with these mental disorders. We're looking at building a brain, a baby's brain. So vitamin D is important across your lifespan, and you need to have enough of it to build healthy bones. And we think it's also important to build a healthy brain when you're pregnant or when you're a newborn baby.
So, John, in regards to vitamin D, it seems to be this really important piece in the health puzzle. How do you get tested for vitamin D deficiency, and how do you know what to do?
Well, this is a hot political topic because vitamin D tests are expensive for our society. I don't know what the exact cost is, but pathology companies charge a certain amount of money. And mostly, you probably don't need to be tested. So, because it's so easy just to get treated. And this is a safe, simple supplement. You just go to supermarket or across the counter at the pharmacy. What I'd recommend to your listeners and to general practitioners who may be listening is that you just check on behavior and risk factors. So you ask a set of questions like, do you get a bit of sun? Do you go out and get some sunshine on your skin? Do you work indoors all day? Do you avoid the sun? Do you have dark skin? Are you veiled? Are you a woman that covers up during the day? These are all very big risk factors. But if you see someone with those risk factors, you may not need to do a test. You just say, you could be at risk. Why don't you start taking some vitamin D supplements? It's so cheap. Go buy some at the pharmacy.
So is that the answer, John? Is it that we need to get more sun and do it safely? Or if you are seen as vitamin D deficient, that you just take supplements?
In Australia now, we're so alert to slip, slap, slop and avoid sunshine. And that's good advice because that's bad for people with fair skin living in subtropical climates. But the downside of that, we live in built-up cities where there's more shadows. If there's pollution, that's going to cut down on the ultraviolet light. So it's a complex message, Natarsha.
So where to from now, John, after this research?
The dream study would be that we take vitamin D during pregnancy of women, before the baby's born, so we can see what was it in the second trimester, in the third trimester, and then take it in the first few years of life, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Now, that's inconvenient. You have to put needles in the pregnant women and take blood from babies. That's not so it's easy to do. So it's not really feasible. But I think what worries me, Natarsha, is I don't know when the critical window opens and shuts. Well, what if the critical window is still open in the first, second, and third year of life? So maybe newborn babies could be screened for vitamin D, and then you could say, your baby's got low vitamin D. Here's a pamphlet to remind you, don't forget your vitamin D supplements for the baby. So we don't give anything to the baby. We just give a little bit of information, a piece of paper, educate the parents. And that may be, that we may be able to rescue the baby and stop them going on to get the disorder. Now, Natarsha, I'm going beyond the data. that you asked me to speculate about the future, but I don't know whether it's true.
Congratulations on the work and thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Natasha. Nice to talk to you.
That was Professor John McGrath there. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'll be back tomorrow with the weekend briefing. And on tomorrow's episode, Antoinette Lattouf is joined by self-help guru Jefferson Fisher.
How you want to handle a liar is very specific to how they're behaving. But this is what I would recommend is, one, you give it silence. The reason why you give it silence is because liars can't stand it. They want you to be chewing on their lie. They want you constantly in it with them because they feel like you're bought into their story. Whenever you give silence, it makes them nervous and they'll start talking for you.
You can also follow us on our socials on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Natarsha Belling. Thanks for your company.